Having turned the page from 2016, we enter 2017 with a reality TV star about to become our 45th president. Nationalism and isolationism taking hold more and more around the globe. Democrats hawkish on Russia, many in the Republicans turning a blind eye to the so-called bromance between Trump and Putin. These are new times indeed. Let's explore this a little more with one of my favorites, Harry Enten, senior political writer and analyst for 538. That's the political and analytical site founded by Nate Silver. Harry joins me from New York. We'll talk about Trump in just a bit. How did everyone get it wrong picking this election?
Well, you know, what I should point out in terms of the general election was, yes, I think all of the websites, all of the prognosticators had Hillary Clinton as the favorite. But our website, in fact, gave Donald Trump a 29% chance of winning. And 29% things happen all the time. If you flip a coin in the air twice, it's going to land on heads twice in a row 25% of the time. So this is an example of that polls should be used as tools. They are not perfect. They help guide us. We knew that the election was going to be close. But at the end of the day, Trump was able to win and surprise a lot of people, although perhaps it shouldn't have been as surprising as some people thought it was.
What did you learn from it?
Well, I think we learned a number of things. Number one, we learned that, you know, if the choice is between the lesser of two evils, sometimes strange things can happen, right? I think there was all this talk about how Donald Trump was disliked among the vast majority of Americans, but Hillary Clinton was disliked by almost the same percentage. So I don't think Americans liked the two choices that were handed to them, and they ended up choosing one of the more negative people. But it really was a choice that they weren't really sure how exactly to cast their ballot. I think the other thing was that there's a lot of anger in this country. There were a lot of people who voted for Donald Trump, even despite Donald Trump being one of the candidates that was seen as more extreme throughout our American political history, and they voted for him because they really felt like America was getting away from them. I think you saw that in a lot of the Midwestern states where Barack Obama's approval rating had fallen over the past 4 years, and where a lot of manufacturing jobs had left, and where a lot of people just thought that the economy was getting away from them, and they decided that even if they didn't believe every single thing that Donald Trump was saying, it was worth taking the chance on him.
Although she won by a major popular decision.
She did win by a major popular vote, and I think that's one of the things that Donald Trump should keep in mind as he enters the White House, is that more people voted for Hillary Clinton than for Donald Trump. She built those electoral vote margins, or the popular vote margins, in the coastal states and in the urban areas. But I think in the rural areas and in the suburban areas, in the rural areas where there's seen a lot of job loss, where they've seen a lot of people who just don't feel that good about the economy, Donald Trump was able to rise up and shock a lot of people. So I think that there's a lot of positive for Trump, but there's a lot of negative and a lot of reason for him to be cautioned, not to read so much into this as to believe he has a truly strong mandate.
But he's got the Republican majority in the House and Senate. Can he get a lot done?
You know, that's the real question, right? Can he get a lot done? He has a very large majority in the House of Representatives, 240 seats or so. In the Senate, he has a somewhat smaller majority, but he still has 52 seats. It's very difficult to get things through Congress, especially the Senate, given that, you know, the 60 votes needed for cloture. But I do think, at least in the honeymoon period, there's going to be some leeway, as there normally is for presidents, that they should be able to get some things done. I think it's going to be very important to watch the first 100 days of the Trump presidency. If things aren't able to get through Congress in those first 100 days, then they're probably never going to get through. But if Trump is able to use the bully pulpit and is able to use that honeymoon period during those first 100 days, it's going to be interesting to see what legislation he puts up and what his number one and number two and number three priorities are.
Will his tweeting help him?
I don't know if his tweeting is helping anybody except late-night comedians, to be honest with you. You know, this is the type of thing that I think most people voted for Donald Trump, not because of how he tweeted, but in fact, in spite of it. I think he uses his Twitter in a number of ways that I think most people would agree is unpresidential. But look, it's part of the Donald Trump package. And so far, the Donald Trump package has tended to work for him. So I don't expect it to necessarily stop. But I do expect that there's going to be more tweets that most people sort of scratch their eyebrows about and scratch their heads about and go, what exactly is that?
The day Obama took office, Mitch McConnell said, "We'll stop him at every turn. We hope he fails." Should the Democrats do the same?
Well, I do wonder whether Democrats are going to see this as an opportunity, perhaps where they can work with Donald Trump on certain issues, for instance, on infrastructure, where, he wants a big infrastructure program, and that's normally something that Democrats want to do. But I think that for the most part, Washington is probably going to continue to be gridlocked. Democrats have enough seats in the Senate where they can really make Donald Trump's life miserable. And more than that, they don't see eye to eye with Donald Trump on that many issues. And at the end of the day, if Republicans were able to gridlock Congress as much as they were over the 8 years of the Obama administration, especially during the final 4 years, then why shouldn't Democrats try and do the same thing? If Republicans were able to maintain their majorities in both the Senate and the House and pick up the presidency, Democrats really have nothing to lose.
What's Trump's first executive order?
I think that he might do something with regards to immigration. Obviously, Barack Obama did a lot of things via executive action where he was able to sort of bypass Congress. So I wouldn't be surprised if Donald Trump tries to repeal a number of the things that Barack Obama did. But at the end of the day, Donald Trump is an unprecedented guy, and more than that, somewhat unpredictable. So I'm not exactly sure what Trump is going to do, and I'm not sure that people close to him know exactly what he's going to do, at least right when he gets into office.
How important will be the inaugural day speech?
I think it will be important. The inaugural day speech will be important insofar as it sets the tone, right? I think that Donald Trump, when he gave his acceptance speech back in November, when he won the presidency, struck a more moderate tone, or at least a tone that we should come together as a country. And I think that's what the inaugural speech will perhaps give him an opportunity to do, sort of be a reset button, say, look, I understand that there were more people who voted against me than for me, but I'm the president for all people, and he'll try and bring people together. At least that's what I would do if I were he, but I'm not sure he's necessarily going to do that. And if he goes in the opposite direction, then I think he's going to continue to face a wall of opposition, not just from the members of Congress who are of the opposite party, but from the Americans who didn't vote for him in the election.
We know he's a successful businessman. He's not the orator that Barack Obama is. No one is. How good a leader do you think he'll be? How good will he lead when bad things happen if a school blows up, or terrible things happen, or an astronaut goes down and he's got to address the nation?
I think that this is the question, and why we tend not to elect people who have no real executive or government experiences. We don't have a real track record of how Donald Trump will deal with crisis. We don't understand if he is going to be the type of person who actually has the ability to stand up in front of the nation and bring the nation together. He may very well have that ability. We do not know. That's the thing that I think is going to be the real question, is can he act presidential when he's actually in the White House? There were a lot of people throughout the campaign who said that he wasn't acting presidential, and Trump basically ignored them and kept doing what he was doing. But when you're the president of the United States, you're the most powerful man or woman in this entire world, you sometimes need to act presidential. And I'm not sure Donald Trump has it in him. Perhaps he does, but that's going to be a real test, because I can assure you that in the first 100, 200, 300 days, there's going to be a crisis that presents itself where Trump will have to get up in front of the nation and say, everything's going to be okay, I'm in charge, and let's all come together.
Can he create jobs?
Well, this is, I think, one of the main questions that is always asked about presidents, is how much control do they actually have over the economy? There are certain things that he can help usher through legislation that can help create jobs. There are certain attitudes about the economy as a whole that can help him. But the fact is that we will likely not see any effects of Trump's job creation programs until well into his presidency. So I don't think it's necessarily fair to judge him 100 or 200 or 300 days, and it's probably fair to judge him, say, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years in.
The fact that he's not predictable can be good with regard to our enemies, can it?
Sure. I mean, you can create unusual alliances, and I'm not necessarily sure unpredictable is good, but unpredictable can be good in the sense that perhaps he'll do things unconventionally and think of new ways to perhaps create deals, not just with companies in this country, but with other countries as well, different alliances, because clearly at this point, the world is a very scary place. It's always a scary place, but I think most Americans think it's scarier than it had been in the past, or at least the recent past. And so perhaps Trump can come together, and I think most of the people who are for him would argue that his relationship with Russia is an example of that, where Russia is not friendly to the United States, at least most Americans don't think it is, and he can help bring Russia closer to the U.S., and that could be an example where his unconventional style and unpredictable style, in fact, is helpful.
Harry, thank you so much. Always great talking to you.
Pleasure talking to you, Larry.
For more of Harry's opinions and writing, check him out on Twitter under the handle @ForecasterEnten.